Today's Kiddush is sponsored by Maxine and Stephen Shaskis in memory of Maxine's father, Jacob Wapner, of blessed memory, a lovely tribute. Thank you so much for sponsoring Kiddush this morning. What would Jacob want us to be eating? What was his favorite treat or dessert? What? Herring. Herring. Sorry. We'll work on that. Who's going to work on the herring? Herring. Okay. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is services in the chapel. After services is a breakfast sponsored by Jack Light, I believe. Is that correct, Jack? Okay. Breakfast sponsored by Jack tomorrow. Immediately after services. Also at 10 a.m. tomorrow is our first Rocking Tots program geared to children under the age of 5, led by preschool teacher Susie Olson. Should be a wonderful time. Please bring your, let's see here. Looking around, I'm going to just say grandchildren or great-grandchildren. Fair to say in this room. Neither and neither. Okay, well, there we go. Our next wonderful musical Kabbalat Shabbat is February 10th. We'll celebrate Tu B'Shvat, the environment, and of course, Shabbat. It was wonderful last night. The energy was just pulsing out, and I hope that you will all join us. Please register so that you can all come and join us. It's a beautiful evening, and we've really worked to keep the service at an exact time. We have a nice little cocktail hour beforehand, and it's wonderful. Please join us. That will be February 10th, of course. Sooner than that is B'nai Moshe's popular quiz night. Join friends for a friendly competition as we test our knowledge of trivia. I think we're going to put Rabbi Pachter, give him some sort of handicap or something, you know.
I won the first year and not since.
He won the first year and not since. Oh, well then I guess no handicap for Rabbi Pachter, but we're going to try and make this fun. What are you shaking your head no? Oh. Bar mitzvah, what can I say? You can always find more information on our website in the flyers. I want to wish a mazel tov, happy anniversary to Cynthia and Marvin Zucker, and to Sylvia and John Nussbaum, mazel tov. We celebrated last week, we'll celebrate this week. Mazel tov to both of you. Birthdays, I want to wish a happy birthday this week to Joel Feinstein, Cynthia Hirsch, John Kaplan, Elisa Paul, David Dolberg, Shane Sperling, Audrey Goldberg, Anita Lamkov, and Jaron Kirschenbaum. Happy birthday to everybody. I want to thank everybody who helped today. Of course, we started off with Stephen Rabinowitz, who led our Psuke de Zimra. We had Jeff Kirsch, who led Shachrit. Shauna Kantor led Torah service and will be leading Musaf. Our Torah readers, Rabbi Pachter and Gordy Barris. Our Torah Gavai, Gordy Barris. Our digital Gavais are Mark Bettman and Hannah Carroll. Our floor captain, didn't write it down, David Gross. Thank you, David. And thank you to everybody who helped. Today is a day that we celebrate the reality of prophets and the messages they've brought us, no matter how much we as a people or the whole of humanity may have resisted, ignored, or even fought against their message. Today we honor those special people whose deep connection with God and unique understanding of the human world allows them to bring holy and critical messages, effect change, and leave such a lasting imprint that it will withstand the tests of time. And today, we commit to further the work of those who are able to look at the world through a set of God-given lenses, allowing them to see the world as it should be, and then to take action to try and bring about the world for all of our better. Today we honor 3 prophets who stood up to tyranny at their own peril. 3 prophets who brought God's message demanding justice and human dignity in the face of oppression in order to bring about change. 3 prophets whose words ring true from then until now. And it's only fitting that today, as we celebrate the voice of these prophets, that we begin the book of Shemot, Exodus. For it's right here in the beginning of this book that the voice of justice calls out in a clarion voice, announcing the mission of the Jewish people. This voice called out first, called to our first prophet, Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, again and again and again, until he could no longer ignore it. He could no longer ignore it, and it became the cornerstone of his life. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, grew up in the lap of luxury, lacking for nothing, pampered since he was brought into the house of Pharaoh. Moses was destined to become a prince of Egypt, a ruler, a master of thousands. But Moses heard that prophetic voice calling out. Moses heard the voice of justice and compassion calling him to take action, to lift up the oppressed and downtrodden. And the Torah says, when Moses had grown up, he went out to his brethren and witnessed their labors. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. He turned this way and that, and seeing no one about, he struck down the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. But we must ask ourselves, how did Moses, growing up in the temple, know that that was his brethren? How could he possibly have known? Because he could no longer ignore the prophetic voice pulsating, calling out to him to stand up for justice. He could no longer silence the pain he felt at the abuse he witnessed, because that is the burden of a prophet, the one who must take a stand when injustice is in front of them. Fearing for his life, Moses tries to run away from those pursuing him after his actions. And he tries to run away from that voice calling out. He succeeds in running from Pharaoh who pursued him. But he could never outrun the voice inside calling for justice. As he comes across another scene of injustice, the daughters of the priest of Midian were being harassed, bullied at the well where they water their flocks, and the voice of justice would not let him turn his face away. Moses, realizing he can't outrun that voice, buries it, until one day he turns aside at the sight of a bush burning. And it calls out the call of justice, the call that would become the central leg of the Jewish people's mission, a mission we carry with us to this day, a mission that has been reiterated time and time again and will not cease until we fulfill that mission. The voice called out and said, "Now the cry of the Israelites has reached me. Moreover, I have seen how the Egyptians oppress them. Come, therefore, I will send you to Pharaoh, and you shall free my people, the Israelites, from Egypt." And Moses is told to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. The mission given to Moses in that holy moment, on that holy piece of ground, was that in each and every generation, we are to stand up to Pharaoh and tell him, let the people go. This message is reiterated over and over. Through the Torah, we're told more than 30 times that we must stand up for, defend, and protect the stranger, the orphan, the widow, metaphors for the oppressed, the downtrodden, those society is cast out and left behind or enslaved. And it's to that mission that our prophets have come to bring our attention. This message was carried into our own era today through the voice of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, whose yahrzeit we marked this past Wednesday. Rabbi Heschel, a man who embraced, who taught, and who lived the religious mandate of our people. Tell Pharaoh to let my people go. A man plucked from the fires of Eastern Europe, a scion of Hasidic dynasty, a master of 7 languages, every genre of literature. A man who embraced the prophetic fire burning in him as he taught, when faith is completely replaced by creed, worship by discipline, love by habit, when the crisis of today is ignored because of the splendors of the past, when faith becomes an heirloom rather than a living fountain, when religion speaks only in the name of authority rather than the voice of compassion, its message becomes meaningless. Rabbi Heschel understood that in his day, the oppressed that needed to be freed, the Pharaoh that needed to be confronted, was the evil of racism and discrimination against the African American community. And so in 1963, he attended the Conference on Religion and Race, where he met, shared a stage, and began a deep friendship with the prophet Martin Luther King Jr., whom we honor this weekend across the nation. At that conference, Rabbi Heschel opened his speech, bringing us back to this moment in our Torah portion, this moment of confrontation when Moses confronted Pharaoh. And Rabbi Heschel said, at the first conference on religion and race, the main participants were Pharaoh and Moses. The outcome of that summit, that meeting, has not come to an end. Pharaoh is not ready to capitulate. The Exodus began, but it is far from having been completed. In fact, it was easier for the children of Israel to cross the Red Sea than a Negro to cross certain university campuses. He went on to declare racism is Satanism, unmitigated evil. You cannot worship God and at the same time look at man as if he were a horse. Religion cannot coexist with racism. It is a grave violation of the fundamental religious principle not to murder, because racism is public humiliation, which the Talmud condemns as tantamount to murder. He concludes by saying, reverence for God is shown in reverence for man. To be arrogant towards man is to be blasphemous to God. Today, on this weekend, when these 2 prophetic giants are honored, we have the choice as to how we respond to the prophetic call, and that still rings out as true as it was in the days of Moses. The voice demanding justice to all of God's people is here today, whether we want to listen to it or simply recite our prayers and go home. This week, I was asked to be on the advisory committee for the Coalition for Black and Jewish Unity. I'll be going tomorrow to several programs honoring Dr. Martin Luther King and the connection between the Black and Jewish community. I invite you to join me in this mission. The call for compassion and care for the downtrodden and the oppressed doesn't end here. The enslaved on the chocolate plantations of West Africa, the sweatshops of India and Southeast Asia, racism that still permeates every level of our society, the oppression of immigrants who plant and harvest and process all of our food. The call of the prophet for us to stand up to Pharaoh has never been more relevant. But it's up to us to decide if we close our ears, turn away, and not see, or to heed the call Rabbi Heschel declared in a free society where terrible wrongs exist. Some are guilty and all are responsible. Shabbat shalom.